Europe of defense has finally awakened.
Europe is willing to step up to do more in defense and security for its continent.
Europe will invest hundreds of billions of euros in its security.
800 billion euros over the next 4 years to be invested in defense.
Now, that was a year ago. At the NATO summit in The Hague, allies agreed to something pretty historic. By 2035, they would spend 3.5% of GDP on defense, plus another 1.5% on defense-related infrastructure and resilience. And together, that's the famous target of 5%. And let's be very honest here. That agreement happened largely because of relentless pressure from Donald Trump. Almost every NATO country signed on to it, except, of course, for Spain. Which, controversial opinion here, is actually the hero of this story. But we'll come back to that later in the video. Now, let's fast forward 1 year to Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, in the Oval Office with Donald Trump.
I want to show you what this president was able to achieve. The Trump trillion shows you the increase Europeans and Canadians are paying into defense since you took office in 2017. The total of extra spent by the Europeans and the Canadians was 1.2 trillion. This is your evidence.
Yeah. I have to admit here, as a Dutchman, it is so painful watching my former Prime Minister in the Oval Office trying so hard to flatter Donald Trump. It honestly makes me feel a little sick. But he's not exactly wrong, is he? Defense spending across Europe is literally exploding. And let's have a look at the newest numbers, which were released very recently. On the screen are all the 32 NATO members. And these are the latest figures for 2025, showing what percent of each country's GDP is being spent on defense. And right at the top, unsurprising for me really, is Poland, spending a staggering 4.5% of their GDP. Followed by Latvia, Estonia, and also surprising, Norway. But what's even more interesting here is comparing these numbers with 2024. Obviously, most countries increased their defense spending, some by a large amount. The biggest jumps came from Norway, Denmark, and Poland. But one thing that really stood out here is the United States. Donald Trump has been so relentlessly pushing Europe to spend more in defense. Yet in 2025, the US actually spent 0.3 percentage points less of its GDP on defense than it did the year before. Now, I suspect that will probably change in 2026, especially after the conflict with Iran. But regardless, the overall trend is very clear. Defense spending across NATO is rising at a remarkable pace, even though it's still off the new 5% target. And when you translate all those percentages into actual money, the scale becomes even more striking. Compared with 2024, non-US NATO countries spent roughly $120 billion more in defense in 2025 alone. But according to Mr. Donald Trump, it's still not enough. The NATO summit taking place right now is yet another major test for the alliance, because Trump once again is making clear that he is not happy.
We were disappointed with the UK, we were disappointed with Germany and France. It would have been nice if they would have said, we'd like to help. We didn't even need it, but it would have been nice if they said that. They didn't say it. We're so loyal to them. We're always fighting for them. We have thousands of troops all over Europe. In Germany, we have 50,000 troops, and then you want a little, give us a little nudge, give us a little kiss. We don't want much. And they say, no, we can't do it.
I mean, seriously, does the guy not understand what NATO is? It's a, keyword, defense alliance. It's designed to protect its members if they're attacked, not to automatically join every military operation the United States decides to launch. But Trump's frustration isn't even just about Iran. He's also doubling down on his demand that every NATO country needs to spend 5% of its GDP on defense as soon as possible. And really make no mistake here. This is driven by pure American self-interest. Personally, I think it's about time Europe started to push back. As we saw before, the non-US NATO members spent more than $120 billion extra on defense in 2025 alone. So where is all of this money actually going? And the honest, sad answer is, we don't really know. Yet, anyway. One comment really stuck with me. On Lanz und Precht, one of Germany's biggest political podcasts, defense expert Christian Schweppe mentioned that the German Bundestag, which is the parliament, approved around 50 billion euros in additional defense spending in its last session before Christmas, in just 4 hours. And the insane thing here is that a lot of the members in the Bundestag and also experts do not know where this money is going. There's so little transparency around defense spending because we're making very quick decisions involving billions of euros. Now, if that is true, it's very concerning. And Germany here is not the only example. In Italy, for instance, the government has reportedly argued that the Messina bridge linking mainland Italy with Sicily can count as defense-related infrastructure under NATO's new spending targets. I'm not entirely sure how many tanks are planning to cross that bridge, but it does show how creatively some governments are interpreting these new spending rules. But the biggest beneficiary of higher European spending isn't Germany. It isn't Italy either. It, sadly, is the United States. According to Bruegel, between 2022 and 2024, more than half of Europe's spending on new military equipment was linked to purchases from none other than the United States. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. For roughly every 2 euros Europe commits to buying new military equipment, around 1 euro was tied to American military systems. And that is very significant. And what are we actually buying? Well, have a look at this list. F-35 fighter jets, Patriot missile system, Apache helicopters, Chinooks, advanced missiles, and so on. Poland, Finland, and Germany are leading the shopping spree, which also explains why Mark Rutte, proudly even, said that European and Canadian defense spending is supporting 195,000 American jobs. Seriously, should we really be proud of that? And it doesn't even stop there. According to Euronews, this week's NATO summit is expected to produce another round of major purchases, including more than $1 billion worth of Patriot missiles for Poland and another $1.15 billion for precision-guided artillery shells. I mean, seriously, guys, at this point, NATO summits are starting to look a bit like trade fairs for American defense industry. And we're doing all of this just to keep Trump happy, just to hope that he doesn't say something that could weaken the alliance in the eyes of our adversaries. Now, on to my opinion, and you probably already know what I'm going to say here. It just makes me really, really angry. Because the more we buy from the US, the more their companies innovate, the further ahead they get, and the more dependent Europe becomes. And that is exactly what Trump wants. And if we do that, then I say no to 5% defense spending. It's not worth it. Therefore, for me, Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, is the real hero of this story. Because Spain is not blindly putting itself on a 5% spending course just to satisfy Mr. Donald Trump. Instead, Sanchez is saying, let's do more together here in Europe. And honestly, that is the debate we should be having. Because if there's just one number I want you to remember from this video, it is this: 40%. According to research cited by the Kiel Institute, Europe gets 40% fewer military capabilities for every euro it spends than a more consolidated state, like, the US. And that is such a waste of taxpayers' money. So, if I were the Commission president today, these would be my 3 priorities. Number 1, buy European wherever possible. Give tax incentives, grants, and political backing to European defense companies that work across borders. Build a real European defense market. And whatever we do, don't let projects like FCAS fail. This is just such a bad message and terrible for our continent. Number 2, buy with Ukraine, build with Ukraine. Let's be honest here, Ukraine is fighting the most technologically advanced war in Europe since World War II. Spending $1 million on Patriot missiles to shoot down $30,000 drones simply is not sustainable. We should be developing the next generation of defense technology together with Ukraine. And yes, bring Ukraine into the European Union as quickly as possible. They are the first line of defense against Russia. And number 3, move towards a genuine European defense union. More joint procurement, more joint planning, more joint command. And yes, you know what I'm going to say. Put Europe firmly on the road towards a European army. The Kiel Institute actually has a whole roadmap of how European autonomy can be achieved, and apparently it can be done in 5 to 10 years. And if you want a video on this roadmap, do let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, a special shout out to our presidents who make all of this possible. Your support is critical and awesome. See you in the next video.